Hey, you guys, welcome back to my hysterectomy journey. I am sitting in the garage getting some air. I just got back from the store, so I am getting out. Wanted to talk to you about week 2 and going into week 3, what happened. If you're interested in finding out how I ended up in the hospital and took a trip to urgent care, stay tuned for the entire video. Okay, guys, so I made it through week 2 just fine. Very uneventful, was feeling really good. Bleeding had stopped, bloating had gone down tremendously. I hadn't had any problems at all. I was starting to feel more back to myself. I was starting to miss people. My 14-day post-op, I actually got out and met my Christian women's group at a church where we were preparing for our annual women's conference. Let me take this candy out of my mouth. I met them up there. I didn't do anything as far as decorating the church for the event, but I did, I just sat around and hung out with the ladies, just having conversation with everybody. I hadn't been around people for 2 weeks, and I'm a people person. I work around people every day, and so it was kind of getting hard just sitting in the house. I do love solitude and silence and having time to myself, but I miss being active. So it was nice to go up and talk to them. Like I said, I didn't do much. I walked in, I sat down, I helped put a couple of centerpieces together, but not much. I opened up bags that had the chair covers in them, but literally not much. I stayed for about an hour and a half, and then I came home. Earlier that day, on day 14, I did some chocolate covered pretzel rods for a family member. That didn't take much time or effort either. I sat down the whole time. I did the pretzels, no big deal. So Saturday rolls around and I said, well, maybe I can get out and go to the actual women's networking event and just sit. My best friend was here from Georgia. Like I said, I was really yearning to be around people at this point. So I go to the conference. I sit, talk to people, eat lunch. I stood in line to get my lunch. I stood up around the room, took a couple of pictures, and literally I sat the whole time, and I was there for probably 3 hours. Came home, went straight to bed, because of course that was a lot for me. I hadn't been up and around in 2 weeks since surgery, and I slept for 3 hours, slept really good, felt really good. Got up on Sunday, everything was fine. At that point, I'm officially 16 days post-op, no big deal. But we just kind of hung around the house. I think we had a real bad storm. The day went on, no problems. Got myself ready for bed, and I noticed I saw a little bleeding. Now, earlier that day, after the women's conference, I felt like I was a little constipated, and so I had started taking Miralax again, because mind you, I had been taking Miralax and stool softeners pretty regularly. I had started to get what felt like diarrhea, so I decided to take kaopectate to slow things down. And then after that, I just went on to take my fiber again, like I had been taking prior to surgery. I normally take a fiber supplement every single day, eat chia seeds, flax seeds, things like that. But by the time Sunday rolled around, the day after the women's conference, I realized I hadn't had a bowel movement in 2 days. And I said, uh-oh, let me go ahead and try to get things moving. So earlier that day, like I said, it was uneventful, but I did drink a capful of Miralax mixed with 8 ounces of water. And I also took 2 stool softeners. So I felt a lot of pressure and needed to go to the restroom, and I did. During that bowel movement, I did have to push quite a bit, which I was kind of nervous about having to push. So like I said, later on that evening, I took a shower, and when I got out, I saw some blood. And I was like, okay, let me just, pay attention to it. Put on a pad. I had been wearing panty liners, put on a little bit thicker panty liner. Went to bed, got up at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and when I sat up on the side of the bed, I felt a gush. And I was like, I shouldn't be having any gushing because I don't have a uterus. Why am I gushing? Went to the bathroom, the whole pad was full of blood. So I said, okay, maybe this is just a one-off chance, maybe, I don't know. I said, let me lay back down. So I lay back down, got up at 6:30 in the morning, and it happened again. So I lay back down again, and at that point I said, okay, if this keeps happening, I'm gonna have to tell my husband, and we're gonna have to go to emergency. So dozed back off at 6:30 a.m., got up at 8:30, and it happened again. Felt another gushing I'm starting to be able to lay on my side at this point. And when I sat up on the side of the bed and put my feet down, I could feel the moisture going into the pad. And I'm like, okay. So I go ahead and put clothes on, and I hear my husband is downstairs. So I call his name and I said, hey, I don't want to alarm you, but I think we need to go ahead and go to emergency. I am bleeding. So he jumps up, gets his, shoes on, and we head for the hospital. And so we go back to the hospital where I had the surgery. I go in and I walk up to the counter, tell her that, I had a hysterectomy exactly 2 weeks ago. I said, but I am bleeding, so they took me back right away. My blood pressure was elevated because I was so nervous. It was like 160 over 87 or something. It was, but I was nervous. I was so worried that, my incision popped open, or that, I don't know. I was just thinking the worst. And so, but trying to remain positive and still smiling, they took me back. I got in the bed, they got my vitals and everything, and the doctor came right in as soon as I basically sat down, and he said, what's going on? And I said, hey, I had a hysterectomy 2 weeks ago, and I'm starting to bleed. And he says, okay, well, let me, who was your doctor? I told him who my doctor was. Oh, hold on, it's my husband calling. And so explained to him what was going on, and he asked me who my doctor was, and I told him, who he was, and he said he was going to reach out to him, give him a call. Most of the time he's on call. He probably will answer his phone right away, no problem. And, Dr. Harris normally does. He's real attentive. So they asked me to pee in a cup. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder why they're asking me to pee in a cup. But anyway, I went to go pee in a cup full of blood. I mean, it was just terrible. It was just blood. I was just bleeding. I couldn't believe it. So I come back and I tell her, I said, I tried to, wipe and everything before I went, but I still got blood in the cup. And she said, that's fine. I'll still be able to see what I need to see. They took me for a pregnancy test. I'm like, did y'all not read I had a hysterectomy 2 weeks ago? Anyway, so they took me for a pregnancy test, and they said, so the nurse told me, go ahead and take my bottoms off. I took my bottoms off and everything. She said the doctor will come back in, we'll do an exam and see if anything is going on. So he came back in, and it was so gross sitting on that bed without, and they put a chuck down, like the little protector down, without any underwear on, and when I'm bleeding, but it was just kind of weird. Anyway, the doctor came in, put me in the stirrups, took a look, and found out that I had popped a stitch. And he says where I popped the stitch, I could have had a hematoma right there, and a hematoma, it's a blood pocket, and the blood just released from it. So he wasn't too worried about it. The incision was still intact. There were multiple stitches still there. He told me I shouldn't have anything to worry about, but that if the bleeding continued on beyond 24 hours, that he would recommend that I come back into the hospital. So, but they went ahead and called the doctor to find out if the doctor wanted to get any additional testing, CT scans, MRIs, or anything like that after he saw what he saw. The doctor didn't. They sent me home. I just was freaking out because I had not had that much blood even after surgery. I hadn't had that much blood. I stopped bleeding after day 2 or 3, I think. So to see that much blood on going into week 3 was concerning for me. So it was kind of scary. I really watched what I was doing. I came home and stayed in the bed, laid in the bed for basically the entire rest of the day. And I think that was Memorial Day. Yeah, that was Memorial Day. So laid in the bed the remainder of the day and just took it easy. By the next morning, I was just back down to a spotting, like a little pinkish spotting. And then by Wednesday of that week, the bleeding had subsided altogether. So I'm so grateful for that. I mean, really. So in addition to that, the few days prior, I had a sty on my eye. So my eye had started itching in the middle of the night. This was right after, this is probably day 10 after surgery. And I scratched it, but it would hurt a little bit. And I said, well, what in the world is going on? The next morning I got up, my eye was starting to swell and turn red, and it was really hot and just kind of tingly. So I said, you know what, I got a sty on my eye. So I took to Facebook and asked my Facebook friends, hey, what do you guys do for getting, home remedies for a sty? And everybody, kept telling me all these different things: a cold spoon, a hot compress, coconut oil, black seed oil, castor oil, baby shampoo, all these different things. And I'm like, those get rid of styes? So as I looked it up, it said a warm compress. So I was trying to keep the warm compress on, but I was just using hot water and a rag. And of course the rag doesn't stay warm long enough for it to be really effective. So it started to swell even more, and I decided to go ahead and go to emergency, because at this point, my lid had dropped down so low, I could see the sty from my eyeball. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and go to urgent care. So I went to urgent care, not emergency. She took a look at it and she told me that, warm compress, but she also gave me an antibiotic because she said that the sty looked like it was getting infected. So they gave me an antibiotic for my eye, and she said, and this is one thing I was really surprised at, she said a lot of times having a fan or sleeping under a fan will create a sty. A sty is where one of your glands gets blocked and it doesn't allow the natural oils and moisture to come through that gland. And so it gets blocked and it causes a pocket of pus. And she says she sees a lot of them this time of year. And she said, but I see you have your fan with you, because I always carry around my little handheld fan for my hot flashes. She says, from now on, put your fan down away from your face and don't put it in your face, because you're creating styes in your eye. What? I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea. That was some good information. So put that in your pocket. Do not sleep with a fan on high, and do not put a fan in your face when you're having hot flashes. So she gave me the antibiotic, got that filled, and I was able to go to CVS and get an actual compress that you can put in the microwave. Because like I said, the hot rag with the warm water wasn't getting it for me. It wasn't releasing the sty. So once I got the hot compress from CVS, and it's like a little, I'll put a picture up here so you guys can see it. It's like a little pouch of beads, and you put it in the microwave. It goes in a little like cotton sleeve, and put it in the microwave for 10 minutes, and then you sit it on your eye, and it literally stays nice and warm for, I know, a good 30 minutes. And so I just set it inside my glasses right there and let it sit on my eye, and I could feel the release of the fluid, because as it washed over my eye burned a lot. So I would do that 2 to 3 times a day to get the swelling to go down. Then I would, wash my eye with the baby shampoo. Everybody kept saying baby shampoo, and I was thinking, is the baby shampoo going to get rid of it? But no, the baby shampoo was to clean away the bacteria from the eye after the eye starts to drain. And so I was like, okay, now that makes sense. Because at first, when I bought the baby shampoo, I was taking a Q-tip in the baby shampoo and just putting it on the sty of my, on the sty, on my eyelid, thinking that was going to shrink it or something. Thought that was some magic potion. I don't know. But anyway, got it to go down. So now my eye is nice and flat. I could still feel a little bump in there. This eye still feels a little tingly, itchy. And when I get up in the morning, it still has a little bit of like crust, like where it's watered overnight. But I try to make sure I don't sleep with the fan on high. I have to sleep with some sort of fan. So I've been turning the ceiling fan off, and then I still have my little tabletop fan, and I just turn away from it, because when I have the hot flashes and the covers are on and they're off and they're on and they're off, I'm not getting any rest at night. And I need that fan to cool me down. So I cannot just go without sleeping with a fan. That has been my 2 weeks, you guys. I mean, the last 2 weeks have really been something. I felt great until those 2 surprises, popped up. Okay, so I'm gonna hop off here. If you have not already, please subscribe. I know if you've looked at some of my shorts, you see some of my baking videos and some of my treat making videos. I really love to bake and cook, so if that's one of your things too, you may want to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you'll know when I upload a new video or short. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.